Alright guys, so this tutorial we're going to work on editing pictures that are shot in RAW. I've kind of alluded to it before, and I have a blog post on why you should shoot in RAW. I will include that link in this tutorial. That way you're able to click on it and access it. There's pluses and minuses to shooting in RAW. I love to shoot it. You never know what'll happen. You may hit your dial, you can play over underexpose, and it's a shot you really like. But you're unable to recover it because you shot in JPEG. There's other reasons. You can read through the blog post and give me your feedback on what you think on that. But for the purposes of this, we're going to go over how to edit. I have pulled up an underexposed picture. I'm going to do a tutorial following this that shows an overexposed picture. Alright, so I want you to see I've opened up an Adobe Camera Raw. You put this as a plugin for your particular editing program. Look up in the right hand corner up here. We have a histogram. We really haven't gone over histograms in this course. That will be in a different one. However, just a little tidbit of knowledge, it's best to make it look like a bell curve. It kind of depends on what you're shooting, what look you're going for, but a properly exposed histogram is typically going to be a bell curve. As you can see here, the left-hand side, all my colors are spiked to the dark side. If I was all over to the right, they'd be a little overexposed. Well, I'm underexposed here. A lot of that has to do with the color of the wall that she's against and the color of her shirt. Kind of depends on where I meet her for. So as you see, I've got dark histogram over to the left. Well, even without looking at that, I can look at the picture and see that it's completely too dark. So for this one, you see all these sliders we've got over here. You can change the temperature, the tint, the exposure, recovery, fill light, and blacks. I don't really touch anything with the clarity, vibrance, and saturation at the bottom. As you progress, you may find a need for it. I have found that by simply using fill light, recovery, and exposure, I get the clean look that I want, and then I'm able to pull it into Photoshop and do all my other edits with actions that I've created of my own workflow. So it kind of covers those other sliders. It may not be the most efficient way to do it, but that's what I've done. It's worked so far. So for this, what we want to look at is we want to increase the exposure. Our exposure comes in, it's zeroed out. So it's right exactly how the picture was shot. Just take it and move the slider to the right to lighten it up. Now you can see that she's light. I could stop there or I could keep going. Now my only concern is, look, she's starting to look a little golden and red and ruddy. So if I keep going, let's see if we can pull it up. See how it's completely blowing her out even though it's properly exposing the wall? Well, what I want to do is pull that back down, and I'm going to pull it down so that she looks decent, about right there, and then come down to fill light. I can use fill light to bring it up a little bit more, and you see it's kind of hard to see, I'm sure, but there it is, the fill light 0, the wall is dark. If I use fill a little more, it kind of lightens up the wall in her as well. You just pretty much play with it however you feel like doing. Don't touch the recovery slider on this underexposed picture. We're mostly going to use that for when they're overexposed. So I pretty much like everything. I could mess with the temperature if I wanted, make it warmer, make it cooler. I just kind of leave it exactly where it was because I use a warming filter and my workflow. And so when I'm done, I just press open image, and it will take a minute because I've got 50 million things running on my computer. And it's going to automatically open up in Photoshop. From there, I do my regular processing that I want. The best way for editing RAW is to adjust the sliders. I could come into Photoshop and I could lighten things up, but just working with RAW when you're in that Adobe Camera Raw is actually manipulating the data instead of laying over a light layer, which happens when you are over in Photoshop. I even have an action that's Spotlight Me Baby, and I sometimes use it when I've already been processing the picture and I think it's too dark. It's not optimal. I lose a little bit of data quality because, like I said, it's putting a layer of lightness on top instead of actually lightening the data that's within the file. We want to do the least amount of processing on top. We want to work with the data that we've been given to have the best quality and best shot possible. So that's an underexposed one. I'm going to show you an overexposed, and then you guys get a chance to practice with both. And if you have any questions, just let me know.